Going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Live DFS NBA live stream. John Pepper here with James Grande, here to preview Monday's 6-game DFS NBA main slate. James, we're looking at some stars and scrubs today, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be really hard tonight, man. Just looking at the ownership projections, if before they release, thankfully they have. It's going to be a question on everyone's mind. Do we play James Harden? Do we play Anthony Davis? Do we play both?
Play both.
Do we play neither?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem stars and scrubsy, especially with all the value that's opened up. Literally from the start of the day up until about 5 minutes ago when we got news. Like, not that Napier wasn't already scrubsy, but I mean, how scrubsy are the Nets going to really get tonight? Is, I guess, is the real question.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, and like I said just before we jump on air, I actually think the fact that Napier is going to be ruled out tonight bodes well for the guys like Dinwiddie and D'Angelo Russell, right, who we maybe weren't considering paying up for tonight, honestly, because they're so scrubsy. But now we know the potential upside they bring in a matchup where maybe they'll be even a bit more competitive with no Kyrie Irving, no Marcus Smart, who's obviously, the defensive stopper on that backcourt for Boston. Easier defensive matchups, Boston losing their best scorer. Could be a competitive game here. They're at home, where we know Brooklyn usually plays a little bit better, and they're not in the back-to-back, which I think really killed them last time they played Boston, right, who's coming off 2 losses in a row to Miami and Orlando. So interesting slate, but like you said, there are some injuries to talk about, so why don't you hit them up?
So the news we were alluding to, Ryan Ellis Jefferson, Sebastian Napier, Jared Dudley, all out for Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving, Marcus Smart, out. Clint Capella out 4 to 6 weeks. So it's not just a today thing. It is an extended period of time. This is if James Harden comes out and the Rockets are winning a whole bunch of these games, he is literally going to run away with the MVP. Nothing Giannis can do, honestly, if Houston kind of maintains where they are right now in the standings. Ish Smith is probable. I found that interesting because he's been out for quite a while. And on the podcast, I did say that Reggie Jackson played 40 minutes, but that could obviously come to a crashing halt if Ish Smith is, in fact, ruled in. Marco Bellinelli was kind of surprised. He's ruled out. Rudy Gay, we know, is out. We know Raul Neto is also out, along with all the other Utah guards. They literally have no guards except Donovan Mitchell. And Kylie Anderson's out. Speaking of Vegas totals, as you alluded, the Boston-Brooklyn game could stay close. I mean, it only opened at 4.5 in favor of Boston. It's now 2.5. So that says to me that, this is really it's close to a pick'em. Brooklyn at home without, facing off against a team without their best player. So I think this game stays close. I think there's a lot of interesting pieces. This is where we want to attack Boston without their best defender, straight up. No Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
We mentioned it last night. D'Angelo Russell. We were both kind of like considering playing him with Marcus Smart active before Marcus Smart was ruled out. So Memphis, Houston up to 207.5. I'm interested to know why. Clint Capella moved at 4.5 points. So be it. Charlotte, San Antonio, 220.5. San Antonio, 8.5-point favorites. Detroit, Utah, 208. Utah, 8-point favorites. Portland, Sacramento, 228. 2.5-point favorites for Sacramento. And then we have the ultimate late night hammer. I'm calling it the ultimate late night hammer because we have a 240 total. One of the few 240s we've had this year. We've had a couple. But 240 Clippers, 2.5-point favorites at home. That is going to be it doesn't get faster paced. Yeah, no one plays defense. It's going to be that's also something you factor into your Anthony Davis versus James Harden, who to play. Right. And if you want to go with the game total and you're a big believer of Vegas, then you know where to go, because Memphis, Houston they're not pushing they're not going to really be pushing the tempo.
No, they're not going to be pushing the tempo. And then again, you wonder exactly, and we say this all the time, how much longer can James Harden really ride Houston to being a competitive team just by himself? Now you just took away Clint Capella. You want to talk about stars and scrubs? It's James Harden and a bunch of scrubs. I know Memphis isn't the greatest of teams, but I feel like, this could be, like you said, a slower, grind them down game where, maybe they pull away because, they just have overall just more talent on the floor in Houston. And I said it, on Sirius XM a little while ago, right before the live stream, actually. The decision today is, do you play James Harden, who's averaging 75 fantasy points over the last 6 games, rather, in a game with a 207 total, or do you play Anthony Davis in the total with 239.5, who's averaging 60 fantasy points? So, it's do you play the guy playing better, or do you play the guy that has the similar upside and the much better matchup? So, and price is obviously coming into big play here, especially FanDuel, where Harden's 13.3. Davis obviously cheaper than that. Price out at 12.7. So, but before we break it down a little bit more into position by position, break into our reads here. Give a little shout out we have with the MLB season is kicking off, James, as you all know, and this is an NBA live stream. But join the FA family with the MLB season package. You get Jim Bouton's Fantasy Baseball draft guide with rankings, sleepers, rookies, busts, and front office breakdowns for every team in the major leagues from the GM himself and Howard Bender, plus over 50 features for the Fantasy Live team. Then use our personal help all season long. Get experts in the live chat 12 hours a day to help you during your season, plus dozens of features and custom tools to help you win. Go to fantasylive.com/MLB season. Use the promo code LIVE to get an additional 25% off the entire season, just $75. That's fantasylive.com/MLB season, promo code LIVE. Baseball season quickly arriving. We're like a month away from pitchers and catchers. It seems like we're a couple days away from finding out where Machado and Harper are landing. So if you guys are into baseball, like James and I are fans of all sports, exciting times. But let's turn this back over to point guard and basketball in general, James, and we'll break down the point guard position at the top. In the playbook, I wrote about Dame Lillard and De'Aaron Fox, about how they're both in really good matchups, and they're going to be completely on their own today because no one is going to pay up at point guard at all with all the value, especially when there's guys to pay up, like a Harden, like a Davis, and up and down the slate. So paying up at point guard today is going to be uber contrarian. You have to play Terry Rozier. You cannot fade him under any circumstances. Even in GPPs, I don't think you can fade him. I mean, it just does. That's just where I'm going. I don't think you can fade him at all in the matchup. But if you are paying up, do you consider Lillard and Fox viable options for you? Or do you think it just doesn't make sense today?
I was ready right there with you, by the way. I was ready to just go right to Terry Rozier. I was ready to go right there.
Yeah, his numbers are incredible in the starting lineup this year. So,
I mean, I think they're both viable. It's a nice paced game. Sacramento doesn't play defense. Damian Lillard is an atrocious defender on the other end. We have Fox pretty highly projected for FanDuel specifically, not so much DraftKings, which I find interesting. Neither of them have been in great form, so obviously we're only playing them in tournaments. But I think they're both decent plays. Like if you're spending up at point guard, I think we both can agree Mike Conley would be probably the best spend up for cash games. Now without Clint Capella, there's literally nobody. It keeps getting better for Conley. Like no more Kyle Anderson to handle the ball. Now no Clint Capella to protect the rim. Yeah, I mean, who is going to guard Conley? Who's going to protect the rim when Conley and Marc Gasol are running pick and roll and JaMychal Green's running pick and roll and there's nobody to guard anybody. So I love Conley here. Again, he's going to be under owned, but you differentiate in cash games at a couple spots, and that's how you really smash your cash games. And I think Conley could be like that differentiator. I mean, we have him projected at less than 10% on both sites. So I do like Conley for all formats, and the Clint Capella news just gave him an even bigger boost.
Yeah, I mean, again, going down more towards the mid tier again. We talked about that 239 or whatever it is. Is it still 239.5? Did you say that, or has it risen? 240 now. Elf Payton, a guy that we know that can fill up the stat sheet and pop off. Playing in the mid-20s in minutes. He's only seen him go over 30 once since coming back. But again, it doesn't take him a long time to really get involved. And now we're talking about a super fast-paced game. The Clippers are the worst team in the NBA against point guards. They're allowing, this game, again, the pace and the flow of this game. Payton could be heavily involved, even just in the 25 or so minutes he's on the floor, enough that he can get you a double-double, a flirt with a triple-double that we've seen him do at times, get steals and whatnot. So Payton at 6,200 over on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, Payton's priced out at $5,900. I think I can be definitely talked into him, especially in a game stack. And then Derek White is another guy that I've been a big fan of. You've been a fan of now for weeks. I think he's in a really good spot here as well against Charlotte.
I think the trio, I'm intrigued by this San Antonio trio in general. Yeah. I think White is obviously the best play. He's the best player, individually. I think he brings the most to the table, averaging nearly 29 fantasy points per game over his last 6. The minutes are really encouraging, 31 per game. So I think he provides us with the highest upside. But, no Marco Bellinelli kind of ensures more minutes for Patty Mills off the bench. I think it ensures more. I mean, Bryn Forbes plays, minutes regardless, 32. He's playing more minutes than even Derek White. Mm-hmm. So I think all of them are in play. Obviously, if you need the salary, you play Mills. If salary doesn't matter and you're just playing the best one, it's Derek White. And, we already said it last night in the podcast, how bad both Jeremy Lamb and both Kemba Walker are defensively. They're both in the 1-teens. I think they're both 111, 112. Yeah, so, I mean, whoever's guarding who, because obviously, it varies from matchup to matchup. They're all in a good spot. So, and then Tony Parker off the bench, sure. Yes, he's Tony Parker in the revenge narrative, but
his last game ever in San Antonio.
But athletically, I don't know if he doesn't worry me getting over pick and rolls for Patty Mills or for open threes. So, but I do agree there's a little narrative stray. Are you buying into it? I mean, for the same price on DraftKings, we could play Shelvin Mack.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they sat him to give him some rest to get him back to 100%. I think for this matchup to make sure he was ready to go for this matchup. He's averaging 17 FanDuel points at $3,900, which is a tick below 5K. I could be talked into some Tony Parker here. And he has had big games this year off the bench for them in limited minutes. He gets on the floor and he's kind of, pretty involved. He had a stretch there of 3 straight games where he's playing about 20 minutes a night, 19 actual, 16 actual, 16 actual, giving 36, 22, and 29 fantasy points back in December. So that upside's there. He just scored 20 actual points against Phoenix a handful of games ago. So, I mean, if you believe in those type of narrative things, and I certainly do, and I brought it up on the podcast for a reason last night, I might give Tony Parker a little run tonight. I think there's a chance that he shows out in front of the, his quote-unquote home crowd for the last time, So definitely think he's interesting for sure. Gilgeous-Alexander, someone that we have projected very highly tonight in terms of ownership. You and I were a little bit surprised because he hasn't exactly been playing too well, and the minutes, again, have been very low, but the matchup just sort of dictates that pretty much everybody in this game is in play.
Yeah, but it's another one. I'd rather just play Shelvin Mack, I think, who's going to play minutes. And again, it's in a matchup against Houston with nobody to defend him. So if you're telling me Shelvin Mack's going to get 20 minutes, I mean, he's been super productive all year long. He's been kind of a rotational guy. I know the coach's sentiments are a little strange, but the timing was prior to the Kyle Anderson news. So, things change, and obviously 28 minutes are pretty indicative. And he's very highly projected, in terms of ownership tonight. So,
if we're gonna go super deep dive, again, don't have to go it, but Brad Wanamaker on the Celtics, they're down 2 guards today. They're down 2 point guards today. Kyrie Irving and Marcus Smart. Wanamaker's been priced. Had a really good European career. Came over here. He's had minimal run, but usually he plays in blowouts and whatnot. I have a feeling he could end up seeing, minutes in the teens tonight as a backup guard, just because they really do need someone else to play point guard after Rozier. There's nobody else on the roster, unless they go Point Hayward or, that's pretty much it. It's Point Hayward and Rozier as ball handlers tonight. So I think Brad Wanamaker could be a deep dive option tonight, min salary, probably on both sides. I can't imagine he's much more than min price on DraftKings. He's not. So, again, throw him out there. And if this game ends up getting out of hand, he's probably going to see even more run. So just throwing his name out there, keep him in the back burner. If you need to, for whatever reason, punt point guard even more than all the value we've already talked about today. Let's jump on over to shooting guard unless you have anybody else you want to talk about.
I'm okay.
Alrighty. James Harden at the top, obviously cash game lock, have to play him, even the price tag. Usually every night he's the highest owned player of the slates. We have projected ownership, though, in large field tournaments as Anthony Davis at 40% and Harden at 20%. Are you feeling in cash games that would be similar? Do you think because people will take the savings in cash games given the matchup, and we'll see Anthony Davis at a higher price? Like, is there any way that we fade Harden after, again, talking about not fading Harden?
So Davis is more highly projected on FanDuel and Harden on DK, and I think it probably has something to do with people looking at a $13,000 price tag. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily afraid by that because if you do the math, Harden's 5x is 66, and at 12.7, Davis is at 63. So, it's $600 saving, sure, but it's only 3 points, which is, right now Harden has the higher ceiling. He has the higher floor. He's just been better. And he has 2 triple-doubles against Memphis this year, with the last one being a 44-point triple-double. So the pace hasn't affected him. There's going to be more rebounds to go around as well because Clint Capella grabs like 20. Right now he's grabbing like 15 to 20 a game. Like, there's just even more opportunity for Harden. Maybe not in maybe he takes a dip in the assists because there aren't as many pick and rolls. There aren't as many lobs to be had. But I'm okay. I kind of like the fact that he's lesser on Anthony Davis, to be honest. That makes me more inclined to play him.
No, right. Because he can, as we saw against Cleveland the other day, go for 60 fantasy points and a half. So, yeah, and like you said, who else is going to be taking shots? I asked you again as we jumped on air, and we're talking about shooting guard, so it sort of fits in. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible, but, does Gerald Green, get more shots tonight? Because Clint Capella's not that Clint Capella takes a lot of shots, but, there's just not an option down there, right? They're just going to be purely a perimeter shooting team. We just got word that Nene is going to start tonight. He's going to play 18 to 20 minutes. That means him and Marquise Chris are probably splitting time at center. Both of them are, Nene was a good player way back in the day. That not really worth considering now. And Marquise Chris has been horrible, really, since being in the NBA. So does a guy like Gerald Green interest you tonight?
It honestly, it's getting to the point for Houston where I'm just I don't hate it. I'm just very confused on how they're gonna manage this game because it's Harden's gonna play 40 minutes, but Gerald Green is 6'7", and Memphis runs a really large front court with Jaren Jackson and Marc Gasol and JaMychal Green and Joakim Noah. They're all 6'10" or taller. Who are they gonna? I feel like they have to play. They have to play their big guys. So I think Gerald Green probably sees his normal role. Maybe he does see extended run, and I think the shot attempts will be there. More shot attempts will be there, even if he does play a similar 20 to 23 minute role. Okay. I think they need the big bodies or their biggest bodies. I don't think they necessarily have big bodies, because
do you think they just try to create maybe mismatches going smaller? Sometimes teams go small and that dictates the other team to try to match up that way. Because the speed and whatnot of the players and the perimeter shooting of a team like Houston could cause problems if JaMychal Green can't get out there and go out the perimeter. He's more athletic. Green can probably go out there, and Jaren Jackson can go out there and defend the perimeter. But often teams go small, and you see other teams try to match up going small instead of using the size to their advantage. That's usually what ends up hurting them. So, in a way, I definitely agree with you, but I also can just see them, spreading the floor and making sure that nobody's in the paint for Harden to get to the free throw line, and get to the rim at will. So, I think you could really go either way there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. I do think both those guys are athletic enough. Jaren Jackson is an athletic freak. but he could be out of the game in 2 minutes because he
Fouls
foul.
Harden.
Yeah, he fouls Harden on the first 2 drives of the game. So it's fair. It's a 50-50 toss up, which is why like if it just might just be Harden, Austin Rivers, and then like kind of move on for me.
Fair enough. Any other shooting guards? I mean, obviously we talked about Harden at the top, and then we moved down. Donovan Mitchell, Drew Holiday, guys that are just like in just crush spots. Mitchell averaging over 55 fantasy points in 3 games since taking over pretty much as the team's starting point guard. Gets his matchup against Detroit, which we just saw when everybody was healthy pretty much, and he went for 50 against them then. So now he's getting the primary ball handling duties. The usage rate for him is through the roof when it's just basically him as the point guard and a crush spot against Detroit, who we love attacking at the guard position anyways. If there was a spot to maybe pivot off of Harden, Mitchell's probably as good of a case as any.
Yeah, I no arguments. It's an elite spot, and it's going to be an elite spot until all these guys come back, and he's not still taking 30 shots and running the offense. So I mean, it is what it is. He's just a great play on a nightly basis, regardless of the price, as long as he's producing like this.
Yeah, no, I definitely have the same sentiments. We talked about D'Angelo Russell. We think he's in a good spot. No Marcus Smart to defend him. Jaylen Brown, decent defender in his own right. We'll have to see, I guess, really who starts. Brown's a good defender when he wants to be, and he's been kind of called out a little bit of late. So maybe there could be some motivation there for him. Going down, Lou Williams, Buddy Hield, and Bogdan, 3 other guys I like in GPPs. Lou Will, we always like in GPPs. The speed of this game, the total of this game, the fact that New Orleans can't defend perimeter shooters, like everything's leading up to a big game for Lou Williams, except potentially his minutes. Even if he can ever just get to 25 to 30, well, he plays 25. If he can get over 30 minutes, he could be in a 50 fantasy points upside here in this matchup. I just don't know we can count on that.
And this is kind of why are we playing Gilgeous-Alexander when Lou Williams, if this game is at all like where New Orleans is pulling away, like Lou Williams is going to be the guy on the floor because he can score. Well, he can score. He could slow a game down and literally get to the free throw line like 10 straight possessions, and then you're back in the game. So he's an elite play. I think he does play over 30 minutes tonight. If I had to project him, I think he gets 30 because just the nature, the pace, he's going to come in this game and there's going to be no one defending him is the issue. And once he gets hot, Doc Rivers has no reason to take him off the floor. So I think this is a smash spot for Lou Williams.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue too much with you. I definitely agree. And put him in the playbook for that reason. And, there are times where you can sort of sense certain matchups that you think Williams can take advantage of. This is definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. The 2 Portland guys, again, we like attacking, this front court here of backcourt rather of Portland. Hield and Bogdan, both in really good spots. I know that Shumpert coming back has sort of cut a little bit into that. But I mean, again, we're still talking about 2 really good shooters, 2 guys have been producing. Do you trust them at all at their price tags? Both sitting in that mid 6K range on FanDuel.
I think Buddy would be more he just with Shumpert back, he just seems safer to me. And I don't say safe in the Kings are not safe, but more secure in minutes, more secure in shot attempts. I mean, he's still their leading scorer on the year, so I would prefer him than Bogdan, who could come in, not do anything, and then they're like, well, we'll turn it over to Shumpert because he plays better defense. I think Bogdan is an excellent player. I just, with Shumpert back, it just muddies the water a little bit. They're also trying to get Justin Jackson minutes. Marvin Bagley's back, so they have a lot going on there. Bielitsa can play small forward too, so I think it's just, I don't hate it. I would play Hield before I'd play Bogdan.
It's fair. I'm not going to argue too much to that point, and I agree with you. For me, I put Hield as sort of the GPP play. I put Bogdan maybe as a safer cash game play. You mentioned Rivers. Obviously, he's just going to play 40 minutes, so minutes-wise, great spot for him. I like Reggie Bullock. We both talked about him a little bit, playing really well of late. Gets a good matchup here against Utah that he just had, where he put up 24 FanDuel points. I think he had 27 DraftKings points because of the 3-point bonus there. I think you can certainly take advantage of that matchup. Kyle Korver, you and I are both on. I like him more on DraftKings because you do get that 3-point bump as well. And that kind of brings us now. I mean, Jaylen Brown on FanDuel, very low priced. I know you asked me right before we jumped on air if I had to pick, Jaylen Brown or Gordon Hayward. I chose Gordon Hayward just because I feel like he's more likely to be a top scorer with Irving off the floor. We've just seen a lot of inconsistency out of Brown, but at 4K, I mean, that's a really good tag for a guy that's going to either be playing second unit pretty much minutes by himself if he comes off the bench, or he's going to get the start against the Nets, and that's always favorable as well.
I mean, it's just like the floor is so low with Jaylen Brown, which is why I understand completely why you said Hayward, and I probably lean Hayward too. It's just more a price point play, right? You said 4K on FanDuel, 4.3 on DraftKings. Like, it's so cheap for a guy. Just a few games ago against the a top 3 defensive efficient team in Indiana goes for 40 fantasy points. I think he's a really good tournament play who, you pair him with D'Angelo Russell in a tournament, they might get you 20 points combined. 20 fantasy points combined, because that's they're like the same, like not the same, but they're same, like they have the same floor, and it's low, but excellent tournament play.
For value again, and it's really an unknown. We're gonna have to wait until this Memphis lineup comes out, but Justin Holiday still min price. You would think even with Kyle Anderson only playing 8 minutes, maybe this would have been an opportunity for him to like bust out and play a bunch of minutes. He didn't. He played 15. He's played 20 minutes twice. For Memphis since being acquired by them. Hasn't done really a lick of anything, but if he starts, you have to at least consider him at that cost. Another guy you mentioned over at small forward is Omri Caspi, and we can touch on him as we jump to small forward. Again, if he starts, probably have a little bit more interest there as well. One of those two guys I think could make it into the starting lineup. And then, of course, you mentioned Mac probably just playing a bunch of minutes as they go small. Also probably viable. But at small forward at the top, Gallinari is the top price play at small forward tonight at 7,300 on FanDuel, which is very cheap. Love the matchup here. We're talking about the game total, 240. I think he was averaging 37 fantasy points in the 2 games against New Orleans this year. He's been the most consistent player for us pretty much all year long. You get on his bank, 30 fantasy point production with the ceiling in the 40s. So no problems whatsoever paying up for Gallinari here. Again, we like attacking the perimeter shooters. Against New Orleans, Gallinari can certainly do that. Has the size to shoot over guys. In on Gallinari tonight.
Yeah, viable for all formats. Safe cash game play. You get him in a New Orleans Clippers stack, and that goes off, and he goes for 50. You're at an advantage. He's probably going to be really highly owned on FanDuel, I'd imagine, because there's literally nobody to play on FanDuel other than him, but. Regardless, you play him in cash and you move on.
Yep, I agree with you. Moving down, small forward. Joe Ingles, obviously a guy we can look at. Again, the way that rotation's been working out, he's been productive with Mitchell as a ball handler there. Opens up some more shots with Mitchell, not really like clamoring for shots as not playing off the ball like with Rubio. With him being in more control, allows him to set up the offense, and Ingles gets some more attention there. I put in Mirotic again just because to get more exposure to this lineup. He has the height and size to match up with Gallinari. Played 26 minutes against Minnesota the other day, 25 FanDuel points. So again, he's on his comeback, on his way back from injury still. But if the minutes continue to rise, or even if he plays 26, 27 minutes, I think he's in a good spot there. Both of those guys I think are perfectly fine, but I think as we go further down is where the interest lies for you and I. At least for me, not to totally speak for you, but Gordon Hayward, 5,200 on FanDuel. Royce O'Neal, $4,900 on FanDuel. Joe Harris, knowing that Napier's out. Yep. Again, more run I think will come from him. So this next sort of like 5K to mid 4K range has some interesting plays.
Would you play Gordon Hayward in cash games?
Yes, I would. I think that the fact that there's no Kyrie really does make a difference with Hayward.
Right. I agree. I just, and the price tag is beautiful on a guy that we,
He's going to go for 50 twice already this year.
Yeah.
Spot where he had the opportunity. So
against a bad Brooklyn defense at that too. So it's and I think O'Neal, we both kind of like shook we double taked at his projection on DraftKings at 1%. I think that's interesting because we're obviously we're not going to come out and say Royce O'Neal is going to go out and get us 30 every single night because it's weird to it's weird for those words to come out of our mouths, but like 11, 7, 7 rebounds the last 3 games. I mean, the peripherals have been there. I don't know. Like 1% kind of seems kind of low for tournaments against a bad Detroit defense as well. So I'm okay with that personally, and I think he's fine for. I'm fine with O'Neal in cash games as well, but
yeah, the ownership we have him projected was interesting because he's been one of the highest owned players over the last 2 games or 2 slates that he's been on, and now we have him tonight as one of the lowest owned plays, coming off 2 really good matchups. So to me, that's a little bit interesting. I know the price tag's risen to him. He's now about $5K, $4,900. Maybe they're worried that the rebounding totals won't be there because they are facing Detroit, and Griffin and Drummond will be there to grab a lot of boards because he does have 18 rebounds in the 2 games. But I still feel like at least the role he's been playing and how well he's played in the starting lineup, I'm surprised to see that low of ownership on him.
Right. Agreed.
So we mentioned Joe Harris. Talked about Gerald Green, 2 guys I think are in certainly really good spots here. You had a lot of interest in Davis Bertans, though, today.
Just with no Marco Bellinelli, I just think there's more opportunity. He's been good the last couple games, 24 fantasy points in back-to-back games, and it just makes sense from a matchup perspective where Charlotte plays more of a traditional stretch 4 in Marvin Williams, that San Antonio turns around and does the same thing, which also means we get LaMarcus Aldridge matched up against guys like Bismack and Willie. So, I think putting Bertans on the floor makes sense for not only him, but it makes sense for the Spurs, and it makes sense for the ability for Pop to just abuse Bismack and Willie with Aldridge at center.
Yep. No, I agree. We've seen Pau Gasol, the ghost of Pau Gasol, seek floor time of late.
Keep him.
For whatever reason, 14, 15 minutes a night. But overall, I definitely agree with you. Omri Caspi, again, I'll just throw his name out there briefly, $3,600 on FanDuel. Last 3 games, 16, 16, and 18 minutes. If he starts tonight, we've seen him do things at times in previous seasons when he was in starting lineups and getting run. He did have against Golden State a revenge game for him there. I think it was 21 minutes, had 20 actual points in that game.
Yep.
And during December. So, again, he has the upside. I don't love it, but he's on FanDuel. If he doesn't do anything, you just don't kind of score. So, stars and scrubs play for sure to punt down at small forward. Any other guys you're looking at there?
Evan Turner, 24 fantasy points over his last 6 games. Harkless still questionable. We could see extended run out of Turner. He's played 20 minutes or more in 6 straight games. So.
Yep, I agree with you there. Shun over to power forward Anthony Davis, as we've mentioned. But the one guy that you and I are just always jonesing to play and can never – we put him in our lineups all day and then we pivot off of him because we just for whatever reason, we just want to get the salary relief and then we kick ourselves when he goes off. But that's Blake Griffin. You want to play him. I want to play him. He did really well in this matchup against Utah the last time they played. He went for 56 FanDuel points. Again, Derek Favors, Jay Crowder, not going to be able to handle Blake Griffin. It's just such a good spot. But at 10-1 on FanDuel, knowing that Anthony Davis is just a little bit higher than him, just seems very tough to pay up for both plays today.
Yeah, everything you said. I want to play him, and you can if you do the stars and scrubs approach, but I'd rather just find the extra money to play actual stars and scrubs and do Davis and Harden, as opposed to Blake and Davis or Blake and Harden.
I agree with you. If it is sort of the contrarian play. I think you said he's going to be 1% owned. It's probably going to be 1% owned. No one, if you're going to pay up for that sort of player, you're going to be paying up for Harden and Davis in that stack. LaMarcus Aldridge, I love. I know you touched upon a little bit. We love attacking Charlotte front courts. Aldridge, see the time at center, power forward, can go all over Biyombo and Marvin Williams and Hernan Gomez there. He should be in a really, really great spot. But then we have to talk about the 2 Clippers forwards here because, again, we want exposure. We talked about it, how we always feel like we don't have enough exposure to these high total games for one reason or another. Great spot to get it. Harris averaging 40 fantasy points in the 2 games against New Orleans this year. If you're picking between the 2, which one's your favorite?
Probably Harrell. Knowing that the minutes are up, knowing that there's probably higher upside. I mean, just the 2 of the last 3 games, he's gone for 50. So, and he's cheaper. So probably Harrell, as long as we know he's going to get 30 minutes, which we don't. He might play 25, but I prefer Harrell slightly to Harris. I probably trust Harris a little more in a cash game setting, but I prefer Harrell in a tournament.
Fair enough. I agree with you there. Thoughts on Jaren Jackson tonight? Has been a little bit inconsistent. But again, there's going to be no size here.
No size. He's fine. He's literally another D'Angelo Russell. You could just make an all boomer bust lineup tonight. Put Jaylen Brown, Jaren Jackson, D'Angelo Russell in one lineup, and they could literally get you 150 points.
Yep.
But they could literally get you 35 combined. So
it was brought up in our subscriber chat over on Fantasy Alarm that the Rockets recalled Isaiah Hartenstein from the G League today.
Yes.
7-footer. So again, he could potentially see some run. He's a min-price power forward, obviously. He's only averaging 8 minutes a game this season, 2 points, 1.6 rebounds. But knowing that Nene is only going to play 18 to 20 minutes, knowing that Chris is probably only sitting in that similar range, I don't know. Does Hartenstein pull your heartstrings at all?
I think I'd rather play someone like Gary Clark or like
what is with these teams giving guys contracts?
Daniel House. I don't know. You're right. I have no idea, but like I'd rather play like a House or a Clark before I played Hartenstein.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I know. I'm not saying it's not the worst. I'm just saying like, oh, here we go. Like, who would you, if you had to pick one, Nene, Marquise Chris, or Hartenstein for a tournament? You can only pick one.
Are they all playing the same amount of minutes, or am I just
20
guessing?
minutes. All playing 20 minutes. They were literally $100 off on DK.
I feel like I'm playing Nene.
Okay.
I don't know. He just, like, Chris has been just an absolute zero, like, for the majority of the time being in the NBA. Seeing Hartenstein's name brought me back to the Matajunas days. Remember him?
Oh, no. Yeah.
I just saw that name and I was like, who is that other, weird named Rocket from all those years ago? Pulled his name out of the hat there. Any other? I mean, so obviously there's more power forwards. We talked about Bagley on the podcast. Thoughts on Bagley here?
Tournaments only, but I mean, if he's going to see 25 minutes again, I do like that. I think I would like to find the extra couple $100 to get Jaren Jackson. I think Rodions Kurix is back in play with all these injuries in the front court and the fact that they like spacing the floor. No Dudley, no RHJ. I think Kurix can be a thing. Again, just 3.8K. I mean, he still starts. So, I mean, that's something. So he could be an option here, but other than that, it's just it's ugly. It's ugly down here.
I agree with you. JaMychal Green, though,
right,
I think is in a really good spot. That I have in my lineups tonight. Again, just getting run, knowing the lack of size there, knowing that they're missing Kyle Anderson for one reason or another. DraftKings has JaMychal Green as a small forward, power forward. I don't know how often JaMychal Green plays small forward. He doesn't seem like the type that would be spending a lot of time playing small forward. But again, they get on the floor. I think the rotation's there for certain. Marcus Morris, did you touch on him? Did I miss that?
I didn't.
$5,100 on FanDuel. No Kyrie Irving. Usually, I think does he still have the highest usage rate on the floor without Kyrie Irving? So Marcus Morris, $5,100 against Brooklyn, I think is in a really, really strong spot. Definitely have to consider him there. A little bit more expensive on DraftKings, but still, I think Boston Stack tonight is a pretty good bet here against Brooklyn. Any other power forward thoughts?
Nope. Marcus Aldridge, like I said, I think he could be a sneaky tournament pivot matched up against guys like Biombo and Willie Hernangomez.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Moving on to center, Drummond, Gobert at the top. They have the same price on FanDuel. We touched upon it a little bit on the podcast, how they're both in good spots against one another. I just have more interest in spending down a little bit at the center position.
Yeah, I mean, you just go to Gasol and you play Horford, and like you move on. They're both too cheap everywhere for all formats.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. Nurkic is someone that I want to play tonight. I'm trying to figure out a way to get him in my lineups while also paying up for everybody while using all the value because he went in that crazy smash game here against Sacramento the last time for 88 FanDuel points. Again, tough to predict him to go again for 5 blocks, 5 steals, and 7 assists. But he is intermittently sort of put up those numbers again in between all these games. So the upside's there, the matchup's there. The minutes again, 25 the other night against Denver, 30 against Charlotte. Back on the rise a little bit. We know when he gets 30 minutes, he's an absolute monster. Thoughts on Nurkic here? Do you think he repeats the 88 fantasy point performance?
No repeat. I think he's a nice tournament play, though. I mean, Sacramento doesn't guard anybody. Not just centers. They just don't guard anybody. Pace up spot for Portland. It's a great play. It's just, again, can we afford to play it? I don't know.
Fair enough. Moving down. I still think Julius Randle's in a good spot if we're trying to get ownership here against this Clippers New Orleans game. Marcus Gasol against Houston. No, we talked about how they don't have any bigs anymore. Does he become your favorite center on the slate?
Gasol and Horford are probably 1A, 1B.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Horford a lot as well. Played 30 minutes the other night and 42 fantasy points against Orlando. I think the minutes restrictions slowly coming to an end. And against Brooklyn in 24 minutes the other day, he put up 35 fantasy points. So right. If we're looking at value, I think Biyombo is a guy we can take a look at here. And then as well as we said, in terms of a punt play, Nene is there. So if you want to go there, he's going to play 18 to 20 minutes. FanDuel, if he doesn't do anything, doesn't cost anything.
Yeah. And Ed Davis is only center eligible on DK. I think he's just, you could toss him into a GPP as well.
Yeah, I like it. Any final thoughts here?
No, I'm 7:30 lock, roster lock, so not 7 o'clock tonight, 7:30.
Got a whole extra, was it like 40 minutes now or something like that? I'm bad at math. I can't.
Yep, 45 minutes.
All right. So, guys, we'll be in subscriber chat as we are now, answering your questions. Lineups are out. I'm going to be making some pivot plays here throughout leading up to roster locks, so be on the lookout for that. But for now, good luck, everybody.
Later, guys.